Mykelti and Robin had a really, really special experience together. And what that did is that special experience between Mykelti and Robin actually improved the relationship that Christine and I had with Mykelti.
It's getting really nice. When Robin first joined the family, I was trying to figure out who I was, and she made me feel...
He cameras captured Mykelti Brown growing up, falling in love, planning a wedding, and giving birth. Those moments became some of the most personal content Sister Wives ever aired. But Mykelti has said she was not directly paid for filming her childbirths. That immediately creates one uncomfortable question. If her life helped make the episode, who actually received the money? That question sounds simple until the payment system starts coming apart. A television network can pay for an event without paying the person whose event it is. Production can help cover a venue, food, travel, or filming expenses. The family can receive one larger payment. Bills can be handled behind the scenes. Yet the person sharing the private moment may still never receive an individual paycheck with their own name on it. For years, viewers naturally assumed that anyone appearing regularly on Sister Wives must be getting paid. That is how television is supposed to work. You show up, cameras record you, the network uses your face and story, and you receive compensation. But family reality television can operate very differently. The network is not necessarily treating every person inside the house as a separate star. It may be buying access to the family as a unit. That means the adults signing the main agreements can hold far more control than the children whose lives fill the episodes. And that difference matters because the Brown children were never background decoration. They were a major reason the show worked. Viewers watched them react to plural marriage, new siblings, new homes, sudden moves, family rules, religious expectations, and their father dividing his time between 4 households. The children made the concept feel real. Without their reactions, Sister Wives would have been 5 adults repeatedly explaining their lifestyle. With the children, every adult decision had an emotional consequence viewers could see. So when Mykelti says she did not receive direct payment for deeply personal filming, the issue becomes much bigger than one missing check. It forces viewers to ask whether the Brown children were treated as people creating television or simply as part of the environment their parents had already agreed to film. That is a harsh distinction, but it sits at the center of almost every family reality show. The adults choose the opportunity. The children grow up inside it. Imagine the payment system as one large family pot. The show pays the contracted adults or a family-controlled business arrangement. That money then helps support rent, mortgages, food, travel, college, weddings, moves, and the daily cost of raising a huge family. On paper, that can sound completely reasonable. The program is about one interconnected family, and the income supports that family. But the moment one person asks, "What was my part worth?" the system becomes almost impossible to explain. Was the child compensated because the family had a nicer home? Was a daughter paid because production helped with her wedding? Was college assistance her share of years spent on camera? What about a child who appeared in far more emotional scenes than a sibling? What about someone who allowed a birth to be filmed while another sibling kept a wedding private? A shared system may cover needs, but it does not show people how their personal contribution was valued. That is why the phrase, "not paid," needs to be examined carefully. Mykelti may have benefited from the show in different ways. A filmed wedding may have received a production budget. Travel may have been covered. Her family may have used television income to support her when she was younger. None of that would be meaningless. But none of it automatically equals a direct appearance fee. Covering the cost of creating an episode is not necessarily the same as paying the person whose private life made that episode possible. The wedding is the perfect example. From a production point of view, it had everything: family disagreement, budget tension, clashing expectations, emotional conversations, and a major event at the end. It was not just a wedding the cameras happened to witness. It became a complete television storyline. Every disagreement created another scene. Every decision gave viewers another reason to watch. If production helped pay for the celebration, that certainly provided Mykelti and Tony with something valuable. But production also received something valuable in return, hours of content centered on their relationship. This is where viewers split. Some people say the wedding itself was the payment. If a couple receives an expensive event that might otherwise have cost them thousands, why should they also expect a check? That argument sounds fair until the other side asks who benefited more. The couple received one day. The show received episodes, promotions, reruns, clips, and a storyline that remained part of the Sister Wives catalog. The event was both a family celebration and a television product. Pretending it could only be one of those things hides the real exchange. Then come the childbirth scenes, and the fairness question becomes much harder to dismiss. A wedding is public by design. A birth is one of the most physically and emotionally vulnerable experiences a person can have. Cameras do not simply record a party. They capture pain, fear, exhaustion, medical uncertainty, and the first moments of a child's life. Once that footage airs, it can be replayed forever. The mother cannot pull it back because she later understands the bargain differently. Mykelti's claim does not prove she was forced, tricked, or promised money that never arrived. Those would be serious claims, and there is no reason to invent them. The unsettling part is simpler, a moment that personal created television value, but she says it did not create a direct payment for her. Even if every agreement was technically followed, viewers can still question whether the arrangement respected what she gave up. And now the title question becomes unavoidable. Who really got the money? The honest answer is that the public cannot trace every Sister Wives dollar. Private contracts have not been laid out for viewers, and there is no complete public accounting showing which scene produced which payment. But the power likely rested with the people who controlled the contracts and the shared family finances, not automatically with every child or adult child who appeared. That does not prove one person secretly pocketed Mykelti's share. It reveals something almost as troubling. There may never have been a clearly defined Mykelti share in the first place. That possibility changes everything. If the money entered a common family system, the adults in control could honestly say it benefited everyone. It might have paid for homes, groceries, vehicles, trips, schooling, and countless expenses that kept a family of this size functioning. From their perspective, dividing every episode into individual percentages may have seemed impossible. But from the children's perspective, the absence of individual accounting could feel like their stories belonged to everyone except them. The show repeatedly told viewers that the Browns were one family. One family was the ideal. One family was the brand. One family justified shared celebrations, shared responsibilities, and shared sacrifice. But one family can also become a convenient answer whenever someone asks for transparency. If everything belongs to the group, nobody has to explain what one person earned. If every sacrifice serves the family, the person making that sacrifice can be made to feel selfish for asking what they received in return. That dynamic would have been especially powerful for the Brown children. They were raised to think collectively. Their mothers were expected to support one another. The children were taught to see siblings from different mothers as one unit. Questioning the payment system might not have felt like a business discussion. It could have felt like questioning the entire family structure. And when money, loyalty, religion, and parental authority are all tangled together, even an adult child may struggle to ask a basic question without creating a major conflict. Kody's role naturally becomes part of that conversation because he was the patriarch and one of the most visible faces of the program. Viewers watched him lead family meetings, announce decisions, and describe himself as responsible for the larger family mission. That does not establish that he controlled every dollar or withheld money from any child. But it does make the question of authority unavoidable. If the family operated as one financial unit, who made the final decisions when the wives or children disagreed? The answer may have changed over time. In the early years, the Browns worked hard to present a united system. Later, the wives became more financially and emotionally separate. They lived in different houses. Their relationships with Kody weakened. Old arguments about property, household resources, and priorities became harder to hide. Once the marriages started collapsing, the idea of one fair family pot looked less convincing. If the adults could not agree on what was fair, how could the children be certain their contributions had ever been measured fairly? This is where Mykelti's revelation becomes emotionally explosive without needing a secret bank statement or a stolen money scandal. It fits a larger pattern of the Brown children reaching adulthood and reevaluating what they experienced. Something that felt normal at 12 can feel completely different at 25. A camera crew that seemed like part of the household can later look like a business operation. A family trip can later look like an episode budget. A filmed milestone can later raise the question, why did everyone make money from this except me? The children also paid in ways that never appeared on a spreadsheet. Their awkward years remain available for strangers to judge. Their family arguments became public debates. Their relationships with Kody, their mothers, and one another were turned into story arcs. When the family moved, viewers watched their distress. When relationships broke down, audiences analyzed their reactions. When they pulled away, even their absence became part of the story. Privacy was not a small detail in the deal. Privacy was one of the most valuable things the family gave the show. Some viewers will argue that the children also received opportunities they might never have had. The show gave them visibility, travel, memorable events, and possibly financial support through the family. That point should not be ignored. Reality television can provide real benefits, but benefits do not erase the need for clarity. A person can be grateful for an opportunity and still believe the arrangement was unfair. Mykelti can appreciate what sister wives brought into her life, while questioning why her direct participation did not produce direct compensation. The toughest question is why she continued filming if she was not being personally paid. But that question assumes she had the same bargaining power as the network or the contracted adults. Family events do not happen in a studio with clean boundaries. If your mother, father, siblings, husband, and extended family are already filming, refusing the camera can affect more than one scene. It can change how an event is funded, whether relatives participate, and how the family responds to you. Saying no may be legally simple while remaining emotionally complicated. There is also the issue of what Mykelti knew at the time. Did she understand exactly how the family was paid? Did she believe money would reach her indirectly? Did she see a covered expense as enough compensation then but feel differently later? Did she avoid asking because financial questions created tension? The public does not know. Those gaps should not be filled with fake answers. Yet the gaps themselves show why the system needed more transparency. A fair arrangement should not leave a person guessing about whether one of the most private days of her life counted as paid work. Fans are likely to divide responsibility between TLC and the Brown parents. One side will say the network had the money and therefore had the duty to protect everyone appearing on screen. If a child or adult child created content, that person should have had a separate agreement and protected compensation. A network experienced in family reality television would understand that parents and children do not always have equal power. The other side will place responsibility on the parents. TLC may have paid exactly what the main agreement required. Once the money reached the family, the adults may have decided how to use it. From that view, the real issue is not whether the network paid, but whether the parents created a fair system for the children whose lives kept the show alive. Then a third group will argue that shared household support was fair because the show followed the whole family, not a collection of individual performers. All three arguments contain part of the truth, which is why this story is more interesting than a simple villain narrative. A network can fulfill a contract and still benefit from an unequal situation. Parents can use television income for legitimate family needs and still fail to recognize each child's contribution. Adult children can willingly participate and still realize later that they did not understand the value of what they gave. Fairness is not always destroyed by one dramatic act. Sometimes it disappears slowly inside a system everyone accepted because nobody felt powerful enough to challenge it. The financial question also mirrors the emotional structure of the Brown family. For years, the children were told that Kody's time, attention, and resources had to be shared. If one household needed more, another might receive less. If one wife questioned the balance, she risked being described as jealous or disloyal. Now apply that same logic to television income. If one child asked for individual payment, would that have sounded reasonable, or would the family have treated it like taking money away from everyone else? That is how a shared system can silence people without anyone directly ordering them to stay quiet. The pressure is built into the arrangement. Asking for your share becomes a challenge to family unity. Wanting a contract becomes a sign that you do not trust your parents. Protecting a private event can be interpreted as denying the family a storyline or financial opportunity. Every personal boundary suddenly affects the group, so the individual learns to feel guilty before anyone else even responds. Mykelti's position makes this especially compelling because she often tried to remain connected across the family divide. She could speak with people who were no longer speaking comfortably to one another. That made her useful emotionally, but it also placed her in the middle of conflicts she did not create. If she now questions how the show valued the Brown children, the statement carries more weight because she was not always the child most eager to publicly attack the family system. Still, we cannot jump from her claim to Kody took everything or TLC paid nothing. Those conclusions would be dramatic, but they are not supported by public proof. The sharper conclusion is that the structure itself may have protected the people with contracts while leaving the people with the least power dependent on private family decisions. No secret theft is required for that to feel unfair. All it takes is a system where the adults receive the payment, the group receives the benefits, and the children receive no clear explanation of what their lives were worth. So, who really got the money? Most likely, the financial value flowed through the adult-controlled production and family structure, then supported whatever expenses those decision-makers considered important. Some Brown children may have benefited through weddings, education, travel, housing, or ordinary family support. But benefiting from family income is not the same as owning compensation for your work. That is the distinction Mykelti's claim forces viewers to confront. The Brown children gave sister wives its emotional stakes. Their childhoods proved the family structure had consequences. Their milestones created major episodes. Their pain made the adult conflicts impossible to dismiss. Their weddings and births extended the show into a new generation. Yet, if the children were never individually valued inside the payment system, then the show's biggest hidden imbalance was sitting in plain sight from the beginning. That is also why this argument will not end with one explanation from Mykelti. Viewers will now look back at every major moment differently. When a child cried over a move, was that simply family footage or unpaid emotional labor? When an adult daughter returned for a wedding, birth, or confrontation, was she participating as a relative or working as television talent? When the children provided the honesty that the adults avoided, who decided what that honesty was worth? The show depended on those blurred boundaries because the scenes felt natural only when the family stopped acting as if production was present. But the more natural the moment appeared, the easier it became to forget that a commercial program was being created around it. That contradiction is the heart of the payment controversy. The children were expected to be completely real for the cameras, while the business behind those cameras remained largely invisible to them. Maybe the money did not disappear. Maybe it paid real bills and created real opportunities. Maybe the adults believed they were making the best decisions for an enormous family under constant pressure. But if Mykelti could share her childhood, her marriage, and her childbirth with millions of viewers and still say that no direct payment reached her for those birth scenes, then the system failed at one basic thing: making sure the person providing the story understood exactly how her sacrifice was being valued.